Hello, Canada. Hello, United States of America, and greetings to everybody all over the planet. We appreciate you all being here, especially during World Cup. We know you're busy drinking and watching soccer, or as they call it, football, everywhere else around the world. My name is KevinJJohnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show. I am not going to monologue for at any time at all tonight. We've got an amazing guest, so you guys don't get to hear any stories about the wart on my back, my shoelace being untied, Derek falling down the stairs, Ed losing his cigarettes, or anything else. We're going to dive right into it. This is an amazing man from the United States of America who put out an incredible documentary. I suggest strongly you head over to Amazon Prime, pay the $5, the $4.99 US or $7,000 Canadian. Please watch this movie. It is absolutely phenomenal. It's called Runaway Slave, and the author, the star of the show, is CL Bryant, who's going to introduce himself right now. Thank you for being here tonight. Oh, man, this is such an honor and a pleasure. We all watched your documentary. We all loved it. Please introduce yourself. Tell the whole world who you are. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and it's great to be on with you. And I also want to say that we have great friends up in Canada, and certainly I look forward to this conversation. I am CL Bryant, and happen to be a part of an organization in America called Freedom Works, the largest grassroots organization in the nation. I'm senior fellow there, and we boast over 6 million activists throughout America. And it is an amazing effort to build, educate, and mobilize. I, however, have not been a conservative all of my life. I was at one time the president of the NAACP, in fact, a two-term president of the NAACP in Garland, Texas. And so I've seen both sides of the street. I'm an author, and of course, the artist, John McNaughton, has memorialized me on canvas in two of his paintings, Justice for All and Runaway Slave. And that movie, Runaway Slave, is one that won the Crystal Dove Award. And it was groundbreaking. And I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about it tonight. And so I thank you so much for having me on with you. And I look forward to the conversation.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for taking the time to speak to me a few times on the phone. We had a wonderful conversation. So I'd like to start off with the first thing that you had said to me, which was the United States of America is an incredibly unique concept. It's an absolutely unique country, a unique idea, something that we've never had in human history. I'd like you to cover that, please, and why it's so important that we protect it. Please go ahead.
Because it speaks to the idea that we are endowed by our creator, and that's whoever you may think your creator is. If you think you're your creator, it still speaks to you. The founding documents of this country, it says that we are endowed by our creator with certain unalienable rights. And before those words were coined or printed or written, monarchs are all over the globe ruled the people who were subject to them. And America became an idea. Those old white men who put that together, it became an idea that even though on the backs of slaves, yes, this country was built, and on the backs of Chinese people, yes, this country was built, but it was still an idea that would work for all of them. Even the bond servants who came from Scotland and Ireland to this country, they all had that one thing that they could reach for. And it's still that thing that everyone can reach for in this country. And it's made it, in my opinion, the greatest nation on the face of the planet, the greatest success story the world has ever known. And yes, we boast of our exceptionalism here in America. But I have to tell you this, I do believe that exceptionalism is about to leave the room if, in fact, we don't change course in this nation very soon.
Well, I was on Mike Phillips' show today on AmericanRockRadio.com and Mojo 50 in Dallas. And one of the things I did mention is that Canada has very rapidly in the last 5 years become a very Marxist, very communist country. Everyone watching the show knows I've spent 7 months of my life in maximum security prisons just for speaking freely and exposing some of our government officials for what they're doing. America is in danger of doing the exact same thing. So under the Biden administration, what are your thoughts on American rights being dwindled? Please go ahead.
I believe, as far as Joe Biden is concerned, he is a compromised president. And his little boy, too. In fact, his little boy is probably the reason why he's a compromised president. And so when we look at this Biden fiasco, you have to ask yourself, how did this happen? Is there a design to that? We don't know. If we could identify it, the liberal media here in this country would squash it. And so that is what we are up against. But Joe Biden is an empty suit, always has been. He's been around for over 50 years now. Joe Biden has been around for 50 years now. And what has he done? What has Joe Biden ever done for even his small state of Delaware? How did he get to be president of the United States? And we'll talk about all of that type of thing. But there obviously is some type of design in all of this. It was a design for Canada through the Trudeaus and so forth. It is a design for America at this point in time, and Americans truly need to wake up.
Well, I agree with that because I can say that with the amount of time that Canadians have been asleep, we went from being a phenomenal country in 1988 to about 93 to a shameful place. It's a shadow of what it once was. So we have the same type of race division in Canada as you do in the United States. The difference is it is almost solely the government of Canada doing it to us, and not left-wing media and not opportunists, as we have talked about. There's a couple of names I would bring up. Jesse Jackson is one of them, and Al Sharpton would be another one. Could I get your thoughts on loud figures like that and the role they play in dividing people? Go ahead.
Well, they have a job to do, and they do their jobs well. In fact, they've done their jobs so well that over the last nearly 60 years, you have had the black vote voting Democrat. Why? Because Reverend Jesse Jackson and Reverend Al Sharpton told them to do that. And what was in it for the folks? Well, it was some free stuff. And I say this in speeches around the country, and I've said this around the world, actually. I've said this over in the Middle East. And the slave does not necessarily seek freedom. The slave seeks comfort. And the slave will trade his freedom for comfort. And that's what Democrats have found out, really, about Black people in this country, is that they don't necessarily look for freedom. They're looking for comfort. And so what the Democrats have done and what the Democrats do is give to them those things that they feel make them comfortable. Oh, an Obama phone, free housing, free medicine, a job that you don't have to work hard on at all to earn your living. The Democrats have figured out that the slave does not necessarily seek freedom. The slave seeks comfort. And so that is where we are being led to. And I think that's where Canada was led to as well. And so I look forward to the rest of this conversation. But that's what I have to say about those race hustlers like Al Sharpton, like Jesse Jackson, who know better. They know better than what they are saying, but they have to say what they're.
Oh, we lost you. Okay. Did we drop out? We think we lost Mr. Bryant. He is going to be back shortly.
I'm sorry.
You got a phone call, didn't you?
Yes, it. there were, and I'm sorry that my computer was moved,
It's okay.
and I didn't have it hooked up. I'm sorry, but so we are doing this by the miracle of iPhone. But they are race hustlers, and they are indeed paid to say a certain thing and do a certain thing, and be a certain thing. And they want black people to be the same way. They want black people to talk alike, look alike, act alike, and say the
Right.
same thing. Friend, that's not freedom. And wherever you are in the globe, wherever you are listening to me right now, I'm telling you that if in fact somebody else has to approve what you say, if somebody else has to approve what you do, then friend, that is not freedom. And so, but when you look at the Sharptons and you look at the Jacksons, the things they wanted black people to be were the same. And people are not the same. Brothers and sisters are not even the same.
True.
As far as that's concerned. So how in the world can you expect a group of people to be the same? That is ridiculous. And
I
when
agree.
yeah.
I
And
agree.
so that's
Now, to the right, everybody, is the documentary that you must see, Runaway Slave. We've watched it here in the office. It's available on Amazon Prime. It's $4.99 if you guys want to get in there and have a look at it. It's worth every penny. It's worth 20 times the price. So that's I know in the chat here people are asking me what this is. This is CL Bryant's documentary, Runaway Slave. Okay, please. In reference to the whole violence thing, we've been listening to, especially with Barack Obama in power, we've been listening to a lot of anti-police, anti-white, anti-establishment, anti-America rhetoric. That's all I can call it, where some black folks have gone public stating that police officers shoot blacks for no reason whatsoever, and the white man holds the black man down. But in 1996, when I was living in Harlem, the statistic was 83% of crimes committed by against blacks was committed by blacks. Why would that be?
one of the reasons why that is, of course, is because of the familiarity and the neighborhoods in close proximity that black people have with one another in what's so-called the community. And so naturally, if there's violent tendencies in that community, you'll have more black people killing black people because that's who they're around. And the sad thing about it, whoever the lunatic may be that is a murderer or a killer, regardless of his skin color, if you put him around his own people, that's who he's going to kill. And so that it really does speak to geographics as well as demographics in this as well. But this is the thing that black people have been taught to be. And we have been taught to hate ourselves. We have not been taught to love ourselves as people who have been victorious in a struggle for freedom that our ancestors paid for. And they didn't pay for this for us in order for us to constantly live in that room of the past. And the strangest thing about that room of the past that Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson would like for us to live in is that when you go into that room, of the past, there's not a picture on the wall, there's not a memory, there's not a piece of furniture that you can possibly move around in that room of the past. And so that's where they want us to be. We were slaves back then, but that's not the reality now. But they want you to past.
Yeah. See, the reality that we've talked about here would be that we have phenomenal individuals like Puff Daddy, now Diddy Combs, Sean Combs. This gentleman here, he's made the Guinness Book of Records 3 times, if I remember it correctly, for being the most successful black artist. I mean, it's incredible that you have America where anybody who has a solid idea and some drive can succeed. I also read the book that was put out by 50 Cent. It was called The 50th Law, where he talked about street hustling and how tough his life really was. He was able to get away from street culture and become hyper successful. Candace Owens would be another one. I admire this woman something fierce. I love the way that she shoots down and flames everybody in the Senate who's trying to race bait, and she's not going for it. So what is the advantage right now to the race baiting that's being done by CNN and by the Democratic Party? Is there some trophy that they're going to win? What's going on here?
There was a trophy that they could have won if, in fact, they had played their cards differently. However, at this point in time, what has happened through the COVID epidemic that struck us all, and through parents being more aware of what's going on in their children's lives, the trophy that could have been, if in fact you could have kept the lid on the diabolical type of plan that they had for our school systems, they have lost it. It's no longer there because people are they're beginning to awaken. There's an awakening going on, and people like yourself, and I try to be, and others around this country, and of course, your voice, be it there in Canada, as courageous as it is. I want you to understand that there are so many people who like being in the dark, who like what's there. And so what we have to do now is those things that are in the dark, hidden in the darkness.
Yeah, there's a great number of Canadians who have given me the middle finger and said some very choice words because I refused to wear a mask, and the media told them I was the bad guy. And now, of course, there's a bit of a reversal in that mindset. But people do want to be sheep, and that includes white Canadians. They want to do the exact same thing. I'm trying. Maybe you and I should cover a psychology evening on why people want to be lazy and why they want to be led around. But that's not what we're here for tonight. So what I did want to talk about. Go ahead.
That'd be a fantastic conversation, though.
I think so.
Yeah, there's a sort of sheepishness that's creeping into, Americans have always been known to be bold and the ugly American, that type of thing. We've always been known for that, but there is a sheepishness that is actually creeping into us as well, and a snowflake-ish type of thing that is happening with us here in this country. And it's certainly infiltrating in our schools and our college campuses, and it is poisoning the minds of our young people.
Well, if you look at action stars from the 80s, Carl Weathers is one I always loved. I mean, his bit in Rocky was phenomenal. And, him getting his arm shot off in Predator was great. But, now a black role model would be RuPaul. So you've got a black man dressing up as a woman, getting other men to dress up as women, as opposed to Carl Weathers, who was bench pressing 400 pounds, working with Arnold Schwarzenegger in a hyperthyroid, testosterone fueled movie. So I see where the problem is there. But what I'd like to get into your documentary here, and again, I'll bring the slide up for you, Runaway Slave. It seems to me that you and I share a similar idea, that there is a laziness out there and everybody wants to blame someone. And you seem to be dead set against that, where you've got some certain groups like maybe Black Lives Matter stating that their lot in life is only because of the white man. And you have shot that argument down. So I'd very much like to get your take now on this documentary and what I just asked. Go ahead, please.
I have found over the years that I've lived that when people are unhappy, they tend to want to blame somebody for that. And many times they fail to look at themselves, because if you're unhappy with perhaps any situation, unless you are enslaved, but if you're unhappy, it's usually because of choices that you have made or not made that have led you to whatever situation you may be in. And when you find yourself there, many times we want to blame somebody, mom, dad, whoever, for you being there. But ultimately, and that's what every individual has to come to, ultimately, everyone has to take responsibility for the choices that they have made to place them in certain situations. We wonder sometimes why inner city youths wind up in jail and so forth. And it all boils down to choices. No, they may not have had a choice of where they were born or where they grew up, as far as that's concerned, but you have choices about your actions. And that's what's leading us into a very bad place in this country, is that people are making bad choices, and it's creating actions that don't, in fact, help our society. And no, there can't be a deterioration of society. There can't be a deterioration of civilization. We've come far, much too far, out of the darkness of our human frailties to come to a place where we have all the technology we want in our hands, but yet we want to reach back into the past and drag that up. It won't serve us very well going into whatever future we may find ourselves in.
I think I've said don't bring up the past to every girlfriend I ever had. So I know exactly what you mean, because our society is dredging up the past, but I find that we're dredging up the incorrect past. It's always in, especially in the new Marvel movies and everything new in the last 20 years in Hollywood, it's only white people own slaves. They never cover the black African slave. They never cover the Islamic slave enslavement of African nations. They're not talking about the fact that you can buy black slaves on the dark web right now in Saudi Arabia. None of that ever gets brought up. So what is it that about the media? What are they trying to achieve by stating that it's only white people own slaves and only in the USA? What's that all about?
Well, you happen to be talking to a guy from Louisiana. My family, my father was Creole, and Creole usually were either black or Spanish or Indian landowners. And sometimes they would buy their black cousins out of slavery, their black brothers and sisters out of slavery. I'm from Louisiana, and Louisiana is known for that type of intercultural type of thing. That's what makes it most unique among all states, at least the southern part of Louisiana makes it most unique of all states in the Union. But the idea that we as a people have not come to that point where Dr. King was speaking about, where we're judged on content of character. And that means what you bring to the table. Any fool can take off the table what somebody else has placed on the table. But it takes character and who you are and what God has endowed you with to place stuff on the table that can help the society, that can better the civilization and not tear it down. And it seems as though we are in a mode where we are tearing down something that has been so good for all of us who are enjoying it here in this country, at least.
Right. Why do you think the Democrats are tearing apart America? What is it? What do they really want to achieve with this? Because when America goes, the rest of the Western world goes with it. Do they know what they're doing, or are they really that stupid? Go ahead.
They have no clue, but there is an agenda, and it's probably bought and paid for them to do and to follow the line of thinking and the line of legislation that they are trying to follow. If in fact we don't change course in this country, and I do believe we are about to change course. However, you're going to see, I believe, civil war inside both parties in this coming election. McCarthy is already being challenged, but I don't think that the Republicans are going to sacrifice him for principle or policy. I think that they're going to want to keep the party as close together as possible. So we're looking at very interesting times here in this country, and we're looking at very interesting times in your country with your president being as visible, say, just for a moment, as he is. So
Oh,
we're with the Canadians and the Americans are looking at very interesting times in the near future.
I've got to ask, because everyone watching knows, again, you can be arrested for criticizing Islam. That's the big one. You can't criticize Islam in Canada, even if you're citing the Quran. They'll call it hate speech. You could read it word for word. They'll call it hate speech. You are certainly not allowed to make brazen statements disagreeing with the radical LGBTQ community. But there are Americans who have been complaining about that happening to them as well in the United States. So I got to ask, the Constitution of the United States is a potent document, but when it's being cited in court cases, when people are being charged with what they were calling hate speech, I think what they do is they use other charges, like it's either counsel to crime or solicitation of a crime. Does the charter, it's not the charter, sorry, does the Constitution work as a defense in American courts to get people off these charges?
Well, though I may not agree with what you say, I will defend to the death your right to say it. The very First Amendment that we have is that freedom to speak. And when we look at that very thing, that is the most fundamental freedom that a human being has, and that is to speak. I'm about to be married again to my fiancée Annie, and the one thing that she understands, one thing we understand, is that we're able to express ourselves, but people don't talk to each other anymore. People don't discuss anything. On college campuses, that is where ideas were challenged. Now they're where ideas are canceled. What's that about? At least here in America, that's what's happening. And so the freedom to speak, the freedom to say what's on your mind. My grandfather told me this when I was very Afrocentric. I had very long hair and, all of that back in the day. And I went down to set some fence posts with him on the farm. In fact, I still own some of that acreage down there. And I was playing on my 8-track tape. Tell you how old I am. I was playing on my 8-track tape deck. James Brown, Say It Loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Big. I pull up on the place, and Grandpa, he walks over to me, and he puts his rough pulpwood cutting finger in my face, and he says, "I didn't go through all that I went through so that you can be black." He said, "I went through all that I went through so that you can be free. Free to
Wow.
go, say what you want to say." And that was one thing that he himself, I don't think, ever truly was able to do.
Incredible. And that is a remarkable thing for him to have said. It's incredibly insightful. And it's true. My father, you mentioned in your documentary, the Irish were also slaves. My father came from Ireland. His entire family history and lineage came from Ireland. So when he got to Canada at age 16, he got beat up all the time just because he was Irish. That's I still have no clue why the Irish were picked on so much. And it made him a very bitter man. He was violent when I was growing up because he didn't know how to deal with his frustration. He later apologized and we became the best of friends. But I see where oppression affects families generations at a time, and so on. Now, your thoughts. Having said what I've just said, is America more racist or less racist than it was in 1960? I got to hear this, please.
I was alive in 1960. In fact, I was 4 years old in 1960. My parents were civil rights activists. They were contemporaries of Dr. King. In fact, my parents, L. Nolan, L.C. Bryant, along with Mamie Love and others, brought Dr. King, other pastors, and so forth. My father was a deacon of the church. Brought Dr. King to Shreveport, Louisiana, my hometown, in 1959. And I can tell you, you see, I have written on the back of the bus. I have drank from the colored only water fountains. I have used the colored only toilets. And so I'm not telling you something that somebody has told me. I'm telling you something I know as far as this is concerned. And those young people here today who are able to sit at any lunch counter they want to sit at and go into any store they want to go into and can become president of the United States if, in fact, they want to aspire to that. They have no clue. And I'm telling you what I know. This is not what somebody told me. They have no clue what it was like in the 60s. They have no clue what it was like for my father in the 40s and in the 30s, or my grandfather after the turn of the century in the 20s. They have no clue what that's about.
Right.
And so when we hear those voices saying what they're saying, you are hearing people speaking from a point of historical reference that does not exist in their life. I'm telling you something that I know, not something that someone else has told me.
So in conclusion, it's great to be in America in the year 2022. Yeah, from a freedom standpoint.
There is no way to compare 2022 America to 1922 America. There is no way to compare it.
There's actually, Bridget, first off, we're not going to read the whole comment here. Thank you for putting this up. We do appreciate that. We have Brock University in Niagara Falls region, that now has study halls where white students are absolutely forbidden to enter. And they're calling this diversity and equality. I got to get your thoughts on that. Please go ahead.
Do you see the lunacy in what they just said? Diversity and equality. What are you talking about? There's no diversity because you're eliminating the white kids, and there's no equality because obviously you think that somebody is lesser than the other. It's all a sham. It's a part of a huge hypocritical. It's part of a big hypocrisy. And one of the things that they are able to do is dupe the minds of impressionable young people and twist them in ways that are even illogical to their existence. They owe their whatever college education in most cases. In a lot of cases, they owe the ability to go to school in America and achieve what's known as the middle class. They owe all of that to what's known as the free market. And if that goes away, as one immigrant from the Iron Bloc back in the day, he came to me after a speech, and he asked me, he says, CL, if America goes away, where do people go? Our young people never think about that. Our young people never think about if America goes away as it exists right now. If Canada went away as the way it exists right now, even though I think you're in a worse shape than we are at this point, but we're on our way. We're right on your heels. But if America goes away, he asked me, where do people go? Where do they go? And there are people not on our southern border trying to get here. Where do people go?
Well, the only thing I can say, and it's only based on my world travels, I've only been to 12 countries, but I can say I'm glad I did so. The only thing I can say is that you can go to places like Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and disappear. You can just disappear. But if you want to have the type of life that you and I are living right now, well, America, Canada, and a few of the European countries that haven't given all their resources and freedoms away, you could do it there. Not many places, 5 countries maybe that I could think of where you would be free enough to consider yourself as free as Americans. But even then, you're kind of pushing it. The American Constitution is not duplicated anywhere else in the world. What I'd like to do, if I could please, I want to bring in Stefanos Karatopoulos. He's our legal expert, who's also a libertarian. Stefanos, thanks for being here tonight. In reference to what we've just discussed here, I got to get your take on this. where would anybody go? You've traveled Europe, so let's hear it. Microphone, brother.
Just try to get that mic going. So yeah, there's very interesting points that Mr. Bryant's brought up here. And these are actually points that I also stated myself. And again, they tout communism as equality and everybody is equal. That's one of the things that I'm seeing happening here. And um, and as you said, people can't be equal. The reality is that people are not equal. I can't have a obese person 4 foot tall being a basketball player. It just simply will not work. Uh, this is the type of stuff. And then, of course, the BIPOC with Brock University, Toronto's doing the same thing. We have these things that are flying in the face of what they're touting. And I've noticed, we have a lot of influence from the UN, and I've been noticing a lot of Canadians are speaking this international law stuff and UN, bringing UN in. So what they're searching to do is to hand sovereignty and authority from the people in America or in Canada, because it's being pushed all over the world, and hand that authority over to the United Nations is a big problem. And it doesn't work the way it is. So we actually have, well, a case of, well, people say it's not reverse racism, but when you look at it, you start getting into those realms. Maybe not fully, but it's there. I've
Okay.
got emails from politicians, mayors of ex-mayors of Waynfleet, saying very hateful things against white people when they're white
And
themselves.
that's the part. Okay, now Stefanos, I got to stop you there for a second. Mr. Bryant, we need to know: do the American people fully understand what the United Nations really is, and are they in any way worried that some American sovereignty might be turned over to the UN?
If it was up to me, the UN would leave American soil tomorrow, tonight, in fact. And however, Americans, I think, are totally in love with the idea of the UN. What have they ever done for us? They've never done anything. But anyway, that's a whole. We'll talk about that another time. But I think that this young man, I too lean libertarian, although I vote Republican, because you're a very lonely person in D.C. or anywhere else if you're a libertarian. And uh, I do lean that way. There's no question about it. As long as I don't have to pay for it, you can do whatever you want to do. I don't care. But that's the way it is with me. And so and it's between you and the Lord, you and God.
Fully understood. So now I do want to get back to your documentary. What I'd like you to do is, if you could, maybe explain to all of us now what this documentary was about, first off, and then why you created it. Let's go with that, and I'm going to have more questions beyond that explanation.
It was a journey that I took. It took us a year to film it. We even shot a little bit of this film in Israel, but we couldn't figure out how to bring that Israeli or Hebrew story into this American documentary. But it is one that tries to uh, pave the way. And many people, you named some of them, Candace Owens and others. This film was made 10 years ago, even when those types of people weren't on the radar or even thinking any type of conservative thought. But it has been the type of film that has kicked the door open for other Black people to step out of the closet and be as bold as we were 10 years ago making this film. It was one that is ahead of its time, and it's one to create in the mind of the watcher, the viewer, a race for freedom. And is the American dream still alive? Are Black people still enslaved? All those questions are asked in that question and answered. And so Runaway Slave, the movie, is one that won the Crystal Dove Award. We're very proud of that. And also John McNaughton, the world-renowned artist, has immortalized me on canvas with Runaway Slave picture of the portrait. And then we also have Injustice for All that John McNaughton has immortalized me in as far as that's concerned. And so we started a movement back then that I think whether or not I ever get any type of credit or anything for it, I don't do this because it was popular. I did what I did because I believed it was right. And I want to go on record for saying that I did what I did because I believed it was right, not because it was popular. And believe me, what I did with that film 10 years ago was not popular, but I didn't care if it was popular. Again, I say, I did it because I felt it was right.
Well, what you put together there, the message was you live in America, you can be whatever you want to be. Now, prior to the show, you and I talked about some of my favorite Black achievers in the United States. I'll quickly fly through them here. John McWhorter, this gentleman here is a linguistic expert. I'm sure that his vocabulary stretches to the entire 460,000 words in the English language. We have Candace Owens, who absolutely destroys everybody on the Democratic side. She is a conservative, gorgeous Black woman who has never once been stumped and never lost a debate. But then we have this amazing gal here, Madam C.J. Walker. This woman was the first woman millionaire in American history. Did you want to cover the history, or would you like me to cover it quickly?
Oh, well, there's nothing more community, let me say it like that, than the Black hairdresser, and more community than that. And so, Madam C.J. Walker is one who created that ability for all Black women on a mass scale. It made her very wealthy. As you said, the richest woman at the time, not just Black woman, but richest woman in the world.
Yeah.
And so it was Black hair care and the processing, or as they call it, the perm, as they call it. It has been a multi-million-dollar business for many Black beauticians. And go to Atlanta if you don't believe me.
Oh, I know Atlanta very well. It's majority Black, and there's every corner. Like in Calgary here, every corner's got a liquor store because winter's long and cold. But in Atlanta, every corner's got a hairdressing shop. We know that to be true.
Right.
The other gentleman, though, that I have always admired from day one, George Washington Carver, who started life off as a slave. And this man here realized that if you were going to continue growing cotton and harvesting cotton 2 or 3 times, sometimes 4 times a year, the soil was being destroyed. He found a way to reinvigorate soil, but he also found more than 50 uses for peanuts and also for sweet potatoes. This gentleman ended up being on the agricultural board, if I got that correct, of the United States. He stuck it out for 4 decades after he made a slight name for himself. He never got rich, but he was very well known for what he's done. So he achieved that as a slave. And that is why I agree with you that anybody can be anything in America if they've got the drive and desire. So I want to get more of your take on that, please.
God gave George Washington Carver the brain power to take a peanut and use it in various different ways. I don't know if any of us can actually examine to the depth of what it is, the genius that has to indicate. George Washington Carver was no less than genius in his slavery, which debunks the idea that a human being should be someone else's slave. And it also debunks the idea that regardless of your station in life, your individuality, your endowment that God has given to each and every one of us, that we here in America have in our founding documents. We're endowed, we believe this, with certain unalienable rights. And among them, our ability to have our life, to have liberty, and then to pursue the happiness that brings about. That's what it's about. And that's slipping away. But people like myself and Freedom Works and others throughout this nation, we do everything we possibly can do to secure the right of the individual to pursue their life, liberty, and happiness.
Yes. And now the next thing I did want to ask, Stefanos, and here's Ed Janisek. Ed, you're on. We don't want to look at your. Oh, hey, and he shaved his beard off. Wow, you look great.
You look like a baby now.
You look great. Just so you do know, Mr. Bryant, is that we collectively, all of us, have been attacked by Black Lives Matter in Canada, Toronto area, and the terror group AntiFa. I've had 5 attempts on my life by AntiFa myself. It cost me a completely new knee. They had to rebuild my right knee after an Antifa attack. And I've had a couple of broken bones as a result. So I wanted to get your take, and gentlemen, you guys can ask any questions you want afterwards. But Mr. Bryant, your take on Black Lives Matter and Antifa working together in places like Portland and Seattle, burning it down. I've got to hear this.
It's a sophisticated hustle that is going on, a very sophisticated hustle. It's an evolutionary vision of what Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson began right after the death of Dr. King. You see, the old saying in the community used to be, King had a dream, but Jesse had a scheme. And the thing did, in fact, originate from the time that Jesse walked into Hugh Downs with blood-soaked dungaree or jean jacket on, saying it was King's blood and that King died in his arms, was a lie. Jesse had a scheme all along. And what you're seeing with Black Lives Matter and what you're seeing with Antifa and people like that, you're seeing an evolution of that scheme as it has been exposed. I mean, this is no secret. They've been exposed for the charlatans that they are. And so this is one of the maladies and one of the byproducts of white people in America being as gullible to stuff like that. And they're set up by white liberals. White people are being set up by white liberals in this country because they know that they are an easy touch for the bleeding heart. Story of some downtrodden individual. So that's the problem that we have.
Yes, and they were hired. Antifa and Black Lives Matter were hired to harass me and assault me and steal all my mayor signs, or KevinJJohnston for mayor signs all over Calgary. So we know that they are government funded. But Stefanos, you have some insight because you live in Niagara Falls region. You have insights as to how bad Black Lives Matter and Antifa are in the Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls region, Ontario. Please go ahead.
Yeah, well, down here, it's been completely flooded with Antifa members, and a whole bunch of them got themselves elected onto city council and stuff.
Oh.
And, just want to make a correction. I said earlier, an ex-mayor, when I was talking about those emails. It wasn't an ex-mayor, it was an ex-councilor. So this is the kind of stuff that they all push. And Communist Party members, they have all gotten in there. So, they all get funding. They all get any type of disagreement or another view, or in my view, I like to call it the proper view on this. They get attacked immediately and shut down. And it doesn't matter if you're another one of the elected politicians that end up being a councilor, mayor, whatever, and you go to the Niagara region, they are attacked and shut down. They went and shut down past regional councilor because he made a comment of religion, on his religion. He's not representing everyone, but they shut him down. Just before the last municipal election recently, they went after a mayor out of West Lincoln. Anything he said, they would attack him left, right, and center. Uh, this is the kind of, we call it cancel culture, but it's the reason free speech is taken away is so that they can push this, so they can shut everyone down. They can hide history. They don't teach history anymore. You're lucky if most kids could name the provinces or the states in America. They can name all the states or even know how many states there are there. Uh, the important things have been removed from the schools, basically. And you were absolutely correct that they have impressionable minds and they twist them in every way they can possible. Um, one, so I used to date a black lady out of Baltimore, and she will not date any black men, unfortunately, because uh, of just that atmosphere and the mindset of the people there. She would tell me about going to the churches, the black churches. She went a few times with her friend. She won't go there. She's terrified when she goes there because of um, the rhetoric with BLM and what they're being taught
Yeah.
in there. So this is
So,
the real interesting thing here.
yeah.
She is half Cherokee, and then I believe it was her mother who was African, and they had some family members that were slaves. And I did come across a bill of sale for a slave, and I gave it to her because it was from that area. So they were looking to see in their ancestry if that was anyone that was related to their family. It ended up turned out it was not, but still, this is the apprehension that has filled even herself because of the fact that the she's not viewed as black by the black community. She's not viewed as anything else by the white community. So and this is where she's finding that she's not accepted herself, and then she's being attacked more or less. I don't want to say attacked, is probably the wrong word, but uh, she's not feeling welcomed on either side and put.
I see, Stefanos. That's actually what CL Bryant, who's our special guest tonight, who put out the phenomenal documentary "Runaway Slave." That's it. That's what you were alluding to in your documentary. Is that there's this capacity for black conservatives to be pushed to the proverbial back of the bus these days. One of the things that I hated about Black Lives Matter in Toronto is if there was a black man, they didn't do this to women. If it was a black man who had a job and a house and a car and a family at home and he obeyed society's rules, they would call him a coon or an Uncle Tom, and they would shun him and they would tell him that you're not black enough, as if being a criminal was what the black definition was supposed to be. So I have to get your take on this because, again, you did talk about it in your movie. Please go ahead.
It's amazing how the brainwashing of black people has, in fact, infected folks who know better. To lack of a better phrase, they know better than that. And it's strange how Nancy Pelosi and let's just say Rick Santorum in America, both two American politicians, both Italian. Now, they don't attack each other because one's a Republican and one's a Democrat. They don't attack each other. They don't, that's not a bad Italian or for being a Democrat. You're not a bad Italian for being a Republican. The same thing doesn't occur with the Irish as far as that's concerned. You can have Irish Republicans and the Kennedys and Paul Ryan, who is an Irish Republican, or Irish Republican, and the Kennedys, who are Democrats. But Paul Ryan, an Irish Republican, they don't attack each other because they happen to be of different parties. They're still, Irish as far as that's concerned. But black people, you'll find, are the only group of people who will attack each other because one says they want to be a Democrat or one wants to be a Republican, especially if you're a Republican. And they lose sight of the historical fact that the Republican Party was the first home of black people in America. Lincoln was Republican. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and he freed the slaves. And after the emancipation of the slaves, black people voted Republican. They didn't vote Democrat mostly until the 60s, when John Kennedy, black people loved John Kennedy, but John F. Kennedy, but black people mostly voted Republican until, my film points this out, until the mid 50s. And so this is the first home of black folks. And so it does speak to the ignorance that many have about their own history. We're talking about history of black folks, BLM, Black Lives Matter. Black history will tell you that what they're saying is absolute lunacy, because there's been an evolution within the black culture in this country, and the diversity within the black culture, where you have doctors, lawyers, actors, millionaires, as far as it's concerned. Politicians, the president of the United States, Barack Obama, didn't get to be there without white votes. And so the lunacy that we try to pawn off on our young people is absolutely appalling. And it amazes me how somebody can fall for something that doesn't even make common sense.
Yeah, I get that. And I just got to address a couple of quick questions here. Hesham is asking, is Kanye West one of your black inspirations as well? To me, yeah.
I'm sure. I know that Kanye saw my film, Runaway Slave.
Yep.
And I thank God that people like Candace Owens, they weren't out of the closet 10 years ago. They're out now. Kanye's out now. All of that type thing. Runaway Slave did just that. It allowed many who would want to run away to run away. It paved the way for them to come out and say what's on their mind. I didn't say anything more than what black people have been thinking all along, but they're afraid to say it because of the ostracism that goes along with it. Me, I happen to be in a position where I don't really care about the ostracism, because I do what I do because I think it's right. And the rest falls where it may.
Well, I wanted to answer Hesham's question a bit more too. I admire Kanye so much in his Republican stance and going against the grain that we decided to do this. His t-shirt, White Lives Matter, it really fired up the left wing, and Candace Owens put one on as well. So you guys know that we are bringing back the coffee company. That's right. KevinJJohnston Coffee Co. is coming back. We're going to have White Lives Matter, light roast, medium roast, dark roast, blonde roast, and espresso. And for those who want Wasted Native, it's coming back too. So come, you can actually buy these flavors on the website today, KevinJJohnston.me. Wasted Native is back, regardless of what APTN has to say and regardless of what the left wing has to say. And, it doesn't make a difference what the lawyers in Canada have to say about how horrible I am for even considering putting something like this out. But yes, I admire Kanye and what he did, and anybody who's outspoken against the far left. I absolutely adore him for what he does. And if you don't follow Candace Owens, everybody, this lady here, start doing it now. Pay attention to what she has to say, because she's just the prettier version of you and I, Mr. Bryant. That's what she is.
Yeah. I count Candace as one of my own disciples, and Kanye as well, whether they are aware of that or not. Candace is a wonderful young lady, and I look forward to seeing her do some marvelous things as the years go on. I really do. I look forward.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to ask you this, as a corollary to the last answer that you gave forward here, I need to get your take on the whole gangsta rap culture. Now, I came from the city of Mississauga, which is the suburbs of Toronto, and that's back in the 70s and the 80s. So when I got down to Harlem, to live in Harlem, it was complete and total culture shock for me. But what I can say is that all the gangsta rappers with the loose baggy pants and the fake guns in their pants and whatnot, if you guys saw real gangsters from Harlem in 1996, you would all fill your shorts and your socks. Let me tell you that. But I'm wondering why this culture is so praised and highly honored by all American media, because, after listening to Candace Owens and John McWhorter speak and Sean Combs when he's being serious, when I hear them speak, it's nothing to do with that culture. They actually shun it. They hate it. So please let us know what it is that's going on with America and this culture. Fake culture, I'll call it.
That culture comes from, as I'm older than both Sean and Candace Owens, it comes from a time in the late 60s, early 70s, when you had movies like Superfly and The Mac and movies like that. And it launched the path, as we called it, for black exploitation films. And I don't disparage them, because at least black people were working in the film industry, and making a living doing it. So I don't knock any man. I don't stand between any man and his meal, as far as that's concerned. But the thing is this: it did pave the way for the denigration of black women, and the culture to erupt into dissatisfaction with their choices. You choose to not become a part of the free market system in a way that's productive. You choose to go down a path where you want to sell this instead of that. And selling this may land you in jail, where selling that is a whole different scenario. You make those choices. And so when we get into gangster rap, it is a byproduct of choices that people have made, and they choose to be rebellious against the society that does in fact feed them in many cases. And many of these people were raised on a society that has fed them. And the only way that society has fed them is through a free market system. But yet they rail against that through the music. And the only way to see it is through a historical perspective. I respect the opinions and the commentary of people like Sean Puffy Combs or people like Candace Owens, but these people don't really have a historical perspective on how we actually got here. And the only way you actually see that is if you live there and you are now here, and you can pull it.
I understand. So essentially, what I'm hearing is that everybody who lives in America is spoiled compared to the rest of the world, essentially, especially when you compare all of human history and slave ownership as far back as 10,000 years ago. And anybody who's famous now in the United States who would be black doesn't know what the trials and tribulations would have been in Africa, especially when dealing with Islamic slaving gangs. I think that's what I'm hearing here.
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
Reparations, and soon I do have to leave you, but that's why reparations is so ludicrous. You see, as it has been said before, I've never been a slave, and my grandfather, great grandfathers were perhaps slaves in this country. Of course, I'm a Creole. I have a mixture of blood in my veins. Bryant is actually my name. There's a long story to that, but like you, I'm Scots-Irish as far as that's concerned, as well as being Nigerian and Mexican and so forth. I'm a mixture of all of those things. The map of the world is probably written, across my bloodline. And so, but just the same, it's ludicrous that we have engaged in this type of behavior with each other as human beings. And I've known Klansmen. I grew up in Louisiana. I've known Klansmen. I've known true racists. I've known true racists. And let me tell you, they don't care if you call a true racist. Doesn't care if you call him a racist. Okay, it's only people who are not racist who care that they're being trampled upon like that. But I can assure you that a person who is a true racist, he cares not about what you think about him being a racist. Believe me.
Oh yeah, and you cover that quite well in your documentary. That's what's playing to the right of me here, everybody, is the documentary that was put out by this amazing gentleman below us here. Let me just bring up the image for you, and there we go, Runaway Slave. So if you guys get over to Amazon Prime, You can grab it there for $4.99. It is absolutely worth watching. And Kelly had a question for us. Kelly was asking if you're going to have a sequel done or if you're making any more movies in the very near future.
I would ask you to look at a film called Systematic Deception. Systematic Deception, and it is one that I am in. And America in Perspective is one that I've just finished with Freedom Works. And we have work out there. And just Google me, CL Bryant, and follow me on Twitter at Rev, R-E-V, CL Bryant, Rev CL Bryant. And thank you so much for that, Steve.
Okay, I'm just going to make sure I spell that correctly. I'm going to stick it into the chat room for everybody right now. And do I have it right? Is that your Twitter handle right there?
At Rev CL Bryant. Yes, at
Okay,
Rev.
perfect. So on Twitter, everyone, you have to put the @ symbol in front of that. Head over to Twitter and please follow CL Bryant, because the gentleman, as you can tell, is incredibly insightful, incredibly intelligent, and of course, a great filmmaker. So I want to say thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor to speak with you on the phone and to speak with you here tonight. If you have any further questions, anyone, now is your last chance, because Mr. Bryant has to take off. I think Ed's got one. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, the title, Tyranny to Liberty. I got a little bone to pick with that. Liberty is something that a government grants us, the freedoms that are granted to us. Correct?
No, I would not say that at all. Liberty is something that God grants to us. You take, I don't know if you've ever had a teenager who you've loaned your car to. You give them the liberty to go ahead and have the car. And the freedom of that is one that once they drive off, they're free to do anything they want to do in that car. But now responsibility comes along with both of those things, liberty and freedom. If you abuse the liberty of using the vehicle, then you lose the freedom of using the vehicle. And so when we look to government to grant us liberty, then you also look to government to grant you happiness. Liberty comes from the individual happiness of that human being, and government cannot grant that to anybody.
Well, they sure are taking away our freedoms here in Canada.
That's because you're allowing it.
Bingo. Fact. Yes.
It. No, I don't think so.
Well, we're not, but Canada is. Canadians are in general. Yeah, I agree with that statement fully. And Mr. Bryant, before you go, Rio, who was a gentleman that reached out to you in the first place, he's on the phone with me right now. He has one question for you. Could you answer that for him?
Yes, I'll be happy.
Rio, go ahead, buddy.
So, Mr. CL Bryant, it was actually your documentary that moved me from the left to the right years ago. And I've always wanted to ask, do you ever regret or question your decision of being on the right? Because it was actually your documentary I saw in 2012 that convinced me to give up on my left-wing viewpoints.
Thanks, Rio. Appreciate that.
I, of course, am the former president of the NAACP in Garland, Texas. There was once a time when I was on the right. I was once a Democrat for many, many years. I grew up a Democrat. My parents were Roosevelt and Kennedy type of Democrat. And so I grew up in a Democrat home. But the truth of the matter is the principle of being a Republican have always been inside of me. My father was a businessman. My grandfather, who was illiterate, was a businessman still, and I am a businessman, and so and we're talking about generations of Black men in this country who, in fact, have always been able to feed their families without any type of government aid or anything of that nature. So no, I don't regret being a Republican or a conservative or anything of that nature. I think that I've always been that way. And I think most Black people, I think most Latinos are that way as well. We have values for family, God, and country. And that's all it is, being a conservative.
Well, I do say thank you. And Patricia, thank you for saying thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful. At CL Bryant, everybody. Please get over to Amazon Prime and check out the movie Runaway Slave. It's a phenomenal documentary. As you heard, Rio, our boy here, was converted from leftism to, well, conservatism just by watching this film and how honest it really was. I thank you for being here. I'm looking so forward to speaking to you again. And you did mention you'd like to have me on your show. I can't wait to do that.
Yes, my producer will be in touch with you in the following week. We'll have you on soon. We'll have you on next week.
I can't wait to do it. I'm so pleased to meet you face to face. This has been wonderful. Have a great night.
God bless. Talk to you soon.
God bless you too. Take care. That is CL Bryant, everybody. What an amazing individual. God, this was so much fun. I'm so thrilled that we can do this again. You know, you all know that we had so many court injunctions. Well, I had them. Derek and Ed and Stefanos didn't have them. Welcome back in there, boys. With all the court injunctions that were in place, stopping me from speaking. Look how happy I am. You know, just speaking to phenomenal people like CL Bryant and my boys here. You know, I miss it. So, gentlemen,
Kevin, like we kept your voice going even though you couldn't speak.
Yeah, you certainly did. And it's an amazing feeling to have people have my back. So what I want to do right now, gentlemen, is I want to do this. We've talked about, and we have our private conversations, everyone. We've talked about the fact that the freedom movement in Canada it's plagued with a couple of problems. Like ego is one of them. And a lot of people who get groups of us together to protest or to sing or to hold up signs or appear in courthouses, ego tends to get in the way, and people seem to think that they own the rally, they own the idea, and it's led to the destruction and the dissolution of a lot of these freedom movements that were actually gaining steam. So, what I want to do is this, because I have to. I'm preaching to all of you right now. Please, let's stop arguing with each other. The government of Canada, all five levels, which would be federal, provincial, municipal, administrative, and educational. They're all terrible. They are our enemy. I don't want enemies out of the Canadian people. I truly do not. So one thing I do have to say here is that I'm going to take the lead on this. And there are a few folks out there that I seem to have upset with either what I've said or how I've presented. So I'll be the bigger man here, and I'll say, there's a gentleman named Phil Primo. Phil, I understand that you and I have had our differences of opinions. So for whatever it was that I had said to you, and I believe it was me calling you a member of AntiFa, I am hereby apologizing to you publicly on my show. I want all of us who are Canadians, patriots, all of us who want freedom to work together. I don't want there to be strife. I'm not interested in arguments. I'm interested in shaking your hand, sitting down, and having tea and coffee, just like we did last summer in Calgary. There we are. So my apologies to everyone. If I have bothered you, if you're part of the any of the freedom movements, if what we have said on this show has bothered you in any way, we do apologize. But we want to work with you, not against you in any way. So, gentlemen, let's cover this flat. Like, what's going on? What have I missed? I haven't seen you boys in a week or so. There's got to be something the two of you are dying to talk about. Nothing at all. Good night, everybody.
I still go through my court stuff.
Well, yeah, I actually
somewhere with it. Actually, pulling my native card.
I did actually want to talk about that too. Is that people don't know this in Canada? Is that we do have in this country two separate court systems. Natives have their own court. Now, if you all remember, Derek, do you have the footage handy? Derek was assaulted by Calgary police just because he was flying a drone, which he was allowed to do because the drone was under 250 grams.
Yep.
And the cops decided to pin you down on the ground and drive their knees into your back and whatnot. It was ridiculous what they had done. But what we found is that when Derek stated that he's Native, all of a sudden they moved him out of the Canadian court and put him directly into the Native court. So, Derek, why don't you talk a bit about what's going on there? Let me hear it.
Well, it's really interesting with the Native court. Like, I didn't know what I was getting into. So, like, I asked to go into Native court, and they're like, okay. So they made a new date. They told me to go up to the 18th floor, the next court date. I go up there. I talked to a duty council, and they're like, all like, oh, we're happy to see you. It's great to see you. Are you ready for your healing plan? I'm like, healing plan? What are you talking about? I thought this was court. He's like, no, you got to go through a healing plan as your court process goes through, so you can better yourself with your culture and whatever else, and it'll help you either A, with your charges, and we'll give you all the resources you need. So I got a student lawyer. I got, I'm going through a healing plan, which is like, I go through, was it relapse prevention? Because I used to use, so I went through the programs anyways. Like refreshes my tools, and there we are. I'm going through a healing plan. I'm busy all the time. I actually came back from a group just before the show.
Yeah, well, it's true. Actually, Derek had to be in the Native court system today, and raced back here like a maniac to to get onto the show here. So what I do personally want to cover here, everyone, is the shape of things to come and where things have gone over the last little bit. So, Stefanos, I mean, you and I talk about Antifa all the time. We have to observe the fact that Antifa and Black Lives Matter have been extremely powerful in their influence in the last 5 years. However, in the last 5 months, they have had zero influence here in Alberta. I don't even see them anymore. Yeah, in fact, Taylor McNally, who's the black chick who has the big afro and she split her tongue down the middle.
And punches cops.
Well, yeah, and she calls me racist all the time, and she picks on white women all the time. She was arrested and charged and sued for assaulting a couple of police officers in front of the courthouse because what she had done is assaulted a white woman in front of the courthouse. And then when she was going to be arrested, she assaulted the cops. That's how crazy it is. That's the last we heard. And that was even last year. So let's talk about Antifa, and especially with Elon Musk now taking over Twitter and throwing Antifa out. Where can Antifa's influence go now? Steph, you got it.
Well, good question, Kevin. I wasn't aware that Elon threw Antifa out of Twitter, but
not all of them yet, but he's getting there. All the Antifa members who issue any type of threat are gone. That's how he does it.
Good. What concerns me is when you hear nothing. If this person was charged, sued, was she convicted? We don't know. Did they simply make the charges go away? We don't know. What I do have concern with is silence like that. When that happens, when something like that should be, up front and it's in the media and it's not. Ed keeps bringing up the brick attack, the attempted murder on the elderly gentleman, right in front of police, and police don't act. They never had any this type of power in Canada, for the fact that the governments that were in control as a prime minister and in control was not giving them funding. And I'm not saying that Antifa is anti-hate network, but they do have ties, so the judge had made in his ruling. So if they're tied together, does all that funding stay with them? Who funds Antifa? These types of things. So that's where my worry goes to. Where do they go next? To me, what I've noticed of patterns of Antifa is they always fall silent at a certain time period. And then when we have elections showing up, all of a sudden they're there and they're causing all of this stuff. So we do have Andrew Scheer was hiring them to attack Maxime Bernier. At the same time, Trudeau had exposed, when Andrew Scheer was trying to expose Trudeau for hiring them, Trudeau also exposed Andrew Scheer for hiring them. So this is, the bird of the same feather of the bird, right? They are doing the exact same thing, and it's who's going to use the blame game for what purpose, and they'll do it in Parliament because they are immune to anything they say, so they enjoy immunity. So they can lie, they can say the truth, they can say whatever, as long as they can garner political support, and that's the purposes of them being allowed to lie. So this is why I call them horse and pony shows, because you never know what's truth and what's a lie out of there.
Well, that's absolutely a true story. Ed, go ahead. Microphone. Ed.
Hey,
We haven't said that in a while.
Can't take anymore.
Ed, microphone. Ed. Everybody who's watching, say Ed. What's dude, for real?
Yeah, it's muted.
It's called a mouse. Click it. Clicky mouse.
I think he's got the mic on. He just forgot how to use his voice.
There we go.
No, I'm trying to queue up a screen share.
Go ahead.
Of what's going on in Toronto on Sunday. This thing should be huge. It's there's no politics. Well, would I say it's going to be divisive? Absolutely. Anyone normal, and then you're going to have the far left lunatics will be opposing what's going to be happening this Sunday. I think this should be spread far and wide. This is Monique's event that she is trying to organize. It's blowing up worldwide. Apparently, they're doing the same in New Zealand and also in Australia. And wait until Sunday. I bet you it's going to start organizing in the UK and possibly in the States soon.
If something's happening here in Calgary, please let me know because I'll cover it.
Well, okay, Ed. So this is going to be the big thing. If there's going to be any particular type of events in Toronto, I don't know why you still live in Ontario, but if you're going to be in downtown Toronto,
we'll set something up there.
Please cover it. And keep the camera running live. We'd like to actually cover that live because Antifa, they've disappeared in Calgary. They've disappeared in Edmonton. Not that I like spending a lot of time in Edmonton. I hate that town. Calgary's gorgeous. Edmonton sucks, but they're not here. And we have not got any reports from Vlad, from Hugs Over Masks, about Antifa activity in Vancouver either. So what we have, there's a little bit of a shift taking place. Ontario is going to suck for a long time, everybody. So let's just forget about that place. But in Alberta here, with Daniel Smith, and I'm not saying she's a hero, and I'm not saying that she's even serious about the things that she says, but what she is saying right now is triggering the left to completely attack her, and the left is now leaving everybody else alone. But what she is saying seems to resonate well enough with people that Antifa are staying hidden. And Black Lives Matter are non-existent out here. So I'm thrilled beyond reproach with the fact that the pendulum is now swinging back to the right. But Kevin, Elon Musk, hold on, Ed, even though I know a lot of you don't like Elon Musk or billionaires in general, and I understand why. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Elon Musk is the most honest guy in the world, because you can't be a billionaire and be honest. That's just how it works. But what I will say is, just like Donald Trump, he has found a way to irritate the left wing to the point where they are en masse leaving Twitter and leaving people alone and trying to set up things on that stupid Mastodon website, which is not going to work for anyone. Ed, go ahead.
Most of the Antifas are actually working now as journalists.
Hold on. Patricia, all right, I'm not going to forget about anybody in Ontario. There's a lot of people in Ontario that I love. It's just that the province of Ontario, I think we can all agree, is done. It absolutely, it killed my soul to live in that place. It drained me. And everyone that I know who lives there is miserable beyond reproach, and they're seeing me with a smile on my face because I wake up where we are in Calgary right now. I wake up, I turn my head this way, and I can see the mountains, and it is gorgeous, especially when the sun bounces off them first thing in the morning. I'm happy here. I know that a lot of you are unhappy in Ontario because it's a miserable place. I don't hate you, the people. I just hate the province and what it represents. Ed, continue.
Like I was saying, Antifa hasn't disappeared. They've gotten jobs. They're writing, they're working for the Toronto Star. It's now called the Toronto Red Star. Hamilton Spectator, all these newspapers that are failing miserably. Who do you think gets all the garbage on BuzzFeed up? This is all Antifa members.
Well, but you see, they're failing. They're losing money. And Antifa, for everyone who doesn't know, Antifa members and people like them had this massive amount of influence in the new Disney movie, Strange World, where it's a gay couple who do really stupid things with all of this anti-wood burning, anti-coal burning, pro-climate change garbage. And they've already lost $120 million on this thing. Like, people are not going to see it. So, but yeah, like Derek is doing, every media outlet looks like that. They're all clowns and they're losing money hand over fist. So I say, stick with the idea of, get woke, go broke, and they're going to go broke. Good. Bye-bye to CTV, CBC, Toronto Star, and Disney if they're going to keep that up. Guys, Antifa's and the left wing's takeover of Disney media and media like it have led Disney to be so desperate that on their TV service, Disney Plus, they have this new series called Chippendales, where I walked in the room and a couple of my friends were watching this thing, and I see a male stripper having sex, like he's completely naked, and it's all taking place right there. And I just said, pause for a second. And when they hit pause, boom, you see the Disney Plus logo on it. That's how desperate they are. They're getting into adult material now to make up for the loss of and the lack of windfall on their left-wing pictures.
So, you know what? Ontario isn't that bad of an unterrible because of the fact that it's starting to improve. And I'm not going to say it's about these jabs. I'm not going to say it's about their COVID restrictions, because those I don't see eye to eye with Ford and the PC party whatsoever. But Mr. Ford, in the last little bit, has done some good things, believe it or not. Bill 23. So he's allowing development finally. He's removing conservation authorities, who has been a big problem with private property and interference on private property. So these are where all the restrictions. It's the taking of your private property for the government to use, or restrict you from using it until they want to build something, and then they do it. So they did that. They also have Bill 46, which is a removal of a whole ton of red tape garbage, so we don't have to jump through all these hoops. So I'll give him kudos on those two things only, but the rest of it, and his cheesecake recipe sucks, by the way, people. I tried to make it and I didn't like the way it tasted. So, but yeah, he's done that. So we're getting a little bit better in that department. A hell of a needs improvement in the other departments.
Can we play Monique's trailer?
Go ahead.
You have it ready?
All right. Yeah, I'm going to share the screen.
Hit it and hit it hard.
Okay, share the screen. I'll hit the...
All right, there we go. Hit it.
People have been under oppression for 2 years. I feel like my future is a big empty void. When a mother hears her child say that is not okay.
I am a woman.
I am a mother.
I am a grandmother.
I am an aunt.
I am a soul sister's arms.
I will not combine.
I decide what's best for my children.
What is best for my children?
My mom is vaccine injured.
I will not mask my child. I will not be silent.
I will not isolate my children.
I will tell my daughter I do not stay silent.
I did not stay silent.
I did not stay silent.
For the last 2.5 years, the government has taken so much from them.
Join us on December 4th.
On December 4th, I will be marching for my child, your child, and every other child in this world.
For our future generations, for humanity at large.
Never again is now.
We demand an investigation to inform consent.
We need you to take a stand.
Together, we will take back our freedoms and ignite a flame across this country.
We have had enough.
The mothers are coming.
Grandmothers are coming.
The women are coming.
United we rise.
It is time to say never again, and never again is now. Please join us December 4th.
Back on, please. All right, there we go. Microphones are back on. So what I want to say is, first off, congratulations to her and thank her for me if you have a chance. The province of Ontario, look, I just have to be honest here, okay, guys? And Stefanos, you're probably going to disagree with me on this. If you have children, please keep them out of the Ontario school system. Keep them away from this stuff, because at some point they're going to be forced to wear masks. At some point they're going to be told that they're boys if they're girls and vice versa. They're going to be told that they don't have to listen to you, the parents. They're going to be told laws that don't exist that they think protect them from punishment from you. It's a very bad scene. So you should not just be marching against masks. You should be marching against the entire education system in Ontario. And I went through it, and I'm still, to this day, a little resentful of just how worthless the education was that I received from junior kindergarten all the way through to the end of high school. And it's 20 times worse now. And the teachers they're freaks, it seems like. There are so many left-wing nuts that have access to your kids 8 hours a day. That's about twice as long as you get your own kids for every single day. Get them out of these schools. Homeschooling is the way to go. And if you really stop and think about it, the technology that we have right now would mean that you could spend some time, go to teachable.com. I mean, I hate YouTube, but there are a lot of really good YouTube channels. You can learn more in a week on YouTube and teachable.com than you can in a whole semester of school, because they just want your kids to comply. They want them to behave right and become future taxpayers. They don't want them to excel or to think or to dream big or to invent or to recreate economic or political systems. They just want them quiet. Gentlemen, your thoughts on what I said?
Why the hell would I disagree with that? That's the first thing I always spew out of my mouth, is get them kids the hell out of the school. Not only that, but I'm a firm believer in homeschooling. You know, exactly what you just said. Teach them yourself. Get them out of that system. That is the worst indoctrination. Prison, and I'll call them prisons because they are called institutions, and that's what prisons are. And that's exactly what we have. We have police in the schools. They're the prison guards. You get out of line, they beat the piss out of the kids. How many times have we seen that happen? And that is to put the fear of God into them and make them respect the authority of the government. And you must do what government says to do or else. And that is the fear of the other children that see that happen in order to make them comply. So you cannot control your thoughts. Your thoughts are controlled by the government, and you end up thinking what the government wants you to think. So I would never disagree with anyone on that education system. It needs to go by the wayside.
Home education is the key, man. Like I always say this, like I wasn't fortunate enough to go finish high school and stuff like that. They kicked me out because they couldn't program me. So I'm happy I didn't finish school. So take your kids out of school and homeschool them, because look how much smarter I am. No, it's fact. If I would have went through school, man, I don't think I'd be the same person I am today.
No, you wouldn't be as driven as you are. You see, what everyone does not know about the way Derek spends his days. First off, he's over there. All right, he's over there about 8 feet away. So the studio that we're in is bigger than what we had before. He's got himself this monumental amount of equipment on his desk, and he spends the day learning new software and studying up on how to improve everything that he's doing. Now, it takes a lot of drive to dedicate 8 or 9 hours a day to learning this stuff. And that type of drive is not something that you have when you're in school. They teach you to sit around and do nothing. I mean, look, even when I was in school, junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten was 2 years of playing with cars and crepe paper and sandboxes. You play for 2 years. You don't learn anything. I still couldn't wipe my own butt when I was in junior kindergarten. They didn't show us any of that stuff. Like the Japanese schools, these kids are professional butt wipers by the time they get to be 3. Like they really force every facet of education on them. They're even taught how to wash themselves in school. This is something that we should be teaching kids. Everything, starting with hygiene. Yeah. Go ahead, Ed. What's up?
In kindergarten, we weren't allowed to graduate unless we knew our times tables up to 20.
Whoa. That's harsh, man.
Yep.
Well, for kids who are watching the show, you can cheat a little bit here. You've got the 9 times table built into your hands. So what is 9 times 3? Hold down the third finger. All right. What do you got there? Hey, you got 27, right? So 9 times 5, drop your fifth one. What do you got? You got 45. You kids didn't hear that from me.
Is that the new math?
Yeah, there you go.
Math is for calculators these days.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, you know what? It's not even calculators. They just ask Google. Have you seen this? In the old days, we had a calculator that the lights had to be on in the room for them to work. But now, and you had to tactilely type on these calculators. But now you just ask Google and it does it for you.
There.
So they can't even type the answer or the question in anymore.
I just asked Google right there.
Yeah, 2 + 2. Does it know?
Actually, the only time I was allowed to use a calculator in high school was grade 13 physics, and physics only. The only time.
Oh, hold on. Kelly makes an interesting point here. There are QR codes in the high schools for kids to use so they can leave the class and use what?
Yeah, it's like it's a pass. It lets them know that you left the classroom and you got to scan it when you get back. Your phone's.
Are they measuring how many liters of urine the kids are expelling so they can tax the parents? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, they're priming them.
That one.
Sounds like they're priming them for the new what are they calling it? What's going on in China right now?
Digital.
Yeah, it sounds that way. Look, hey guys, I was in 1, 2, 5, 6 different prisons already. And even when we go out of our cells to get lunch and breakfast and dinner, they don't make you scan QR codes. They don't make you type anything in. You just get in line, get your food, and do your thing. Wow. So now you have even more incentive to get your kids out of these schools. All right. Twyla's asking, how could you do trigonometry without a calculator? Or is that just me? Oh, sorry, trigonometry without what? A pen or a calculator? I think, Twyla, you're my age, so
well, I don't think
perhaps pen and paper.
School anymore.
There you go.
They got these Google books now.
For trigonometry, you got charts that you look up. Sine, cos, tan, it's all figured out, and then you got to multiply it out.
Yeah. I never enjoyed trigonometry. I don't enjoy mathematics. I find it incredibly boring, and I find mathematicians incredibly pretentious. However, I do understand the value. The value of math is probably the highest out there.
Absolutely. And you'd make a lousy tool maker.
Yeah, you said that like that's something I give a crap about. I mean, yes, I would make a lousy tool maker. I was also a lousy waiter. I gave that a try. It didn't work very well. Yeah, I'd make a terrible cop. I'm sure of that because I would say no to everything.
Yeah, just stay out of the machine shops, please.
I'll come visit, and that's all I'll do. That's my guarantee. By the way, due to popular request, we have decided to bring back the coffee line. All right. Yes, we did. So you got the white privilege, light and medium roast. We've got Justin's black-faced dark roast. The wasted native is back. Forget gas. Huff this. Mongol Madness, white yellow roast. It's a really good blonde roast. Not too strong, not too weak. Ed's Flying High Espresso. We still have a few bags of that lying around, but we're getting more of it made. And we decided to go ahead with the White Lives Matter coffee line because we know the left wing is going to go crazy over that one. So let Antifa and CBC and everyone else give us the free advertising on that. Did you know that the wasted native coffee, there was recently an argument made in court. This was, I think, in September about how the lawyer was just a crybaby. Mr. Johnston put out this coffee. It was racist towards Native people. He's a disgusting man, and he should be behind bars for 6 months because he works outside of social norms. That's what he sounds like. Now, the judge had to shoot the lawyer down in flames, saying, like, am I judging Mr. Johnston on his incapacity to work within social norms? And the lawyer said, well, no, I just thought it was important. So for that lawyer, wasted native coffee is back. Yeehaw!
Forget gas. Huff this.
Actually, you may have to change the White Lives Matter logo. Why? Because I was driving home tonight down the Queenie, right by the CNE grounds, nice neon lit up. Black lives still matter.
Oh, they're doubling down.
I couldn't believe my eyes. Black lives still matter. So the Marxists are still trying to fundraise for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But because they no longer have control of Twitter, they're going to have a very difficult time. They're going to have now, as I think, more of a difficult time, because the only left-wing social media out there right now would be Facebook and YouTube. Beyond that, you've got Getter and IDW. What else do we have there? Bright Eon, Friendavoo. We have a lot of options now. Truth Social, I'm on that. We have a lot of options to go to that are mostly conservative. I've been on Gab for 3 years now. I've got, I think, 6,000 followers there. The left wing is about to find themselves being broke, like the conservative side, like we have been forever. Now they're going to go broke. So they're doubling down with these new stupid slogans. Black lives still matter.
Did you notice, kind of going back to this schooling thing and the QR code to go to the bathroom on your cell phone? So don't you remember kids going to school? They were saying they're not allowed to use a cell phone. They shouldn't bring the cell phone, and they were confiscating people's cell phones, and the schools were getting sued, and the teachers were getting sued for taking cell phones. Now all of a sudden, it's become a requirement here to have a cell phone so you can go to the bathroom and have a QR code.
I know, like
digital stuff.
What about the families that aren't fortunate enough to have cell phones? How do those kids feel? Oh wait, the school gives them tablets and computers to use, because then they don't feel out of place.
And wow. I'm sure the government will hand out free cell phones too, because look what they've done with the COVID not going to school, and it was just from home. They gave everybody computers and stuff. So, did you know that the Bank of Canada actually has lost money? They lost $522 million in the third quarter.
Yes, actually, that was brought to my attention by a couple of folks who work in the banking system here in Alberta. And that is why, everybody, you'll notice that even when you put a certified check in the bank now that you pay $9 for certification, even those are now held for 5 days, because the banks are that terrified of losing money. And all the Canadian banks are still stopping you from buying cryptocurrency with your money. They are in full panic mode. They're not happy with where things are going. And I hope every bank in this country crashes. Honestly, when the SNL Bank in the States crashed because of their crooked business practices, Americans were happy about it. Yeah, it was a benefit to them to see that stuff disappear. Let's hope it happens here too.
You know who owns the Bank of Canada?
Go ahead.
Stefanos?
Tell me, Ed.
Come on, Derek.
What? The Bank of Canada?
Yeah, who owns it?
Isn't it like the Rothschilds?
There you go.
See, look.
Up until 1972, it was ours.
Yeah, we gave it away.
All the money that's put into circulation would be borrowed against government capital projects, and that's how the money came into circulation.
Well, China has their hands too, though, Ed.
A bridge would be built. The money would come from the Bank of Canada. You paid with this would be money would be borrowed using Canada savings bonds. Remember that?
Mm.
And you get what, 2 points over prime?
Well, when I was a kid, hold on. No, wait. When I bought Canada savings bonds as a kid in grade 7, I was getting 7% on those. It was high.
So prime
it was really high.
It's 2% over prime usually.
Well, 7% is what I was getting as a kid. I remember that because I was proud of it. One thing that my mother would always do is crack the whip behind my head and tell me save, and got us into savings bonds and whatnot. Now, that's about as far as her economic knowledge went, but at least it was a good lesson for her to instill. But now, Canada savings bonds, Trudeau has issued them again. And he says you're going to get 3% per year on these things to help fund freedom in the Ukraine. That's his take on this whole thing now. Yeah, right. It's money laundering at its finest.
So, Ed, did you? I knew the answer to that. I just thought you were using me as a soundboard. You wanted to bounce it back so you could say it. But that aside, Rocco Galati represented the Comars in the case with the Bank of Canada because they wanted to take it out of control because we're supposed to have interest-free money that is borrowed. And so that was the biggest BS ruling ever. I do have the case. And the problem with this whole thing is when it went to court, the judge made the biggest BS ruling ever and said, I can't rule on this because this is political. It's too political. That was the ruling, if you can believe that. That's how corrupted that
The
was.
ruling is a non-ruling, which we understand. Now, I got to address this question here. Patricia, thank you so much. Look, we're talking about this now. The Kevin J. Johnston Show was meant to be on the air 5 days a week. We absolutely, all of us miss doing it. I mean, it kept us in contact with all of you out there. It really did. And some of you are asking me here, do I know Shadow Davis? I know who Shadow Davis is. I've watched his show a couple of times. What happened is we had to go off the air because of court orders, and he jumped in and formed a show pretty much at the same time slot and managed to do what we were doing, albeit much differently, and keeping all of you informed. Now, we are going to go back to our 5-day bit. We certainly could use everybody's help. I know some of you don't like it when we ask, but if anyone is able to get donations our way, you can go freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. That's where you can send them, or go to my website, KevinJJohnston.ca. That there it is right there for you. You can donate there. What we want to do is we got to upgrade a couple of our pieces of equipment here and then go back to the 5-day format because, guys, I'm bored out of my mind. I can't sit around and do nothing. And that is what the Canadian government kind of forced on me is that I go to the gym and I read a lot of books. That's it. Especially with the weather minus 20 out there. So much for global warming. It's minus 20 all week in Calgary. I'm not going outside in that. I almost froze to death over the American border. Forget the cold, man. No way. I'm done. All right. So, yeah, we'd love to come back. And that is the goal. It's not going to be before January, though, everybody. Just so you do know, I have a lot of commitments. We still have to get Derek through his bogus charges for flying a drone.
Get my drone back so I can go live with
you
guys in the air.
We got to get that out of the way. There's a few other legal things I have to deal with at my end. But we're going to keep the show going every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Calgary time and from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Toronto time. That's that. That's all we got to say there. Yes, we'll keep doing this because we love doing this.
Hang on. I got one more bone to pick. If we're going to be fundraising using coffee.
Oh, hold on. Wait.
Can we
Kelly,
please
thank
get
you,
a
and I
Turkish-
couldn't agree more. Continue.
Can we please get a Turkish blend?
A Turkish blend. That's
Yes, we can get a Turkish. Whoa. Wait. When it comes to coffee flavors, everyone, I was actually talking with Jeff Stinson today about that. There are 38 flavors that he's able to create now in his.
oh boy, don't
in
tell
his-
me that.
yeah,
I'm gonna come up with
38.
another Wasted Natives type
38
coffee.
flavors.
Oh, boy.
Now, I haven't tried them all. We're going to try them all, and we're going to select most likely the best 12 or 13 of them, and have
Oh, maybe we should have a coffee tasting
and have our own.
event.
We should have a coffee tasting party here in Calgary. I would love to.
Live event.
And
Come
we can
on
get
out, taste some coffee.
Stefanos's hippie
Oh, what's
hairdo
that?
blend and
What,
and
the
so
gre-
on.
The greasy.
Stefanos, you drink Turkish too, don't you?
What's that?
Stefanos, you drink Turkish, don't you?
No, I drink Greek actually,
Oh,
but
yeah.
similar, but not quite.
Oh,
It's-
as for okay, well, Maria, you've asked a great question here, and I know that you're not asking me that in any particular negative fashion, like the Antifa guys do. I have actually been looking for work. Looking for work is a harder job to do
Especially
than
with us.
actually working. It really is. So, what has happened here is my name comes up, and as soon as they see my name, kaboom. Oh, Mr. Johnston, we watch your show. We love what you do, but we just can't hire you because there's too much controversy. So I started putting resumes out with the name Muhammad Khan on it. Now, and I show up and they would look like this. Eventually, I would tell them my real name because you have to. Otherwise, it's fraud. And they recognize that immediately. There's not a single bar that I can go to in this town without being recognized. And, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. It's just, it is what it is.
Well, you know what
So,
I hear? Me being on the streets doing what I do with the documentary, it's an ongoing thing. And all the people I talk to actually know about what happened to Kevin, and they all supported him.
yeah, it's crazy how many people know the story. They know it. So, yeah, Maria, I honestly have been putting forward a pretty decent effort to look for work. And I just said, yeah, what can I do? They know my name. They know my face. They don't want to hire me because of what they perceive to be controversy. But remember, I'm not a controversial figure by choice. That's a title that was given to me by the media. And unfortunately, the average person is not clever enough to sift through that garbage, to sift through the dead grass there to get to the meat of it all. So I'll continue doing what I'm doing, and that's enjoying life to the best of my ability, which is not bad.
Did you apply at City Hall?
You know what? I should, just for spite.
You want to do something with the city or what?
Yeah, for spite. Well, actually, Maria, just so you do know, I still volunteer my time. There's a couple of church groups in town. I don't mind volunteering my time and helping people out there. The homeless, the number of homeless folks in Calgary, it's probably tripled since I moved to the city. And I've only been here since February of last year. It's easily tripled. Derek is the first one to tell you that number is probably quite accurate. He's out all the time chatting with homeless folks and getting a real sense of what's going on in this town. I actually did have a conversation with a couple of young ladies today. They were in their late 20s who are unfortunately prostitutes. And I was just asking them, like, what brought you to this place? Like, why are you doing this? What's going on there? And the most common answer is that at some point in the past, they got ill with a disease. One of them had a hysterectomy at 23. And the medical system didn't really do much. And regrettably, she was also in a broken home, so there was no support. The other one got into drugs when she was young, and her parents just, instead of helping her, threw her out. And that's something I just don't understand in the parenting game. This was a common thing in the 70s and the 80s, where men would say to their daughters, if you ever get pregnant, I'm going to throw you out of here. And they would. Like, that's when your daughter needs you the most. You don't just throw her out the door and watch her have your grandchild, you friggin' idiot, in the snow. Like, how vile could a man possibly be to take that particular stance? Or if you do drugs, I'll throw you out of this house. No, you help your kid get off of drugs. That's what family is. Listen, man, when you create a life, that is what you signed up for. Okay. Too bad if you don't like it. You know, your kids are not always going to be people that you like when they become adults, but they're still your kids. You know, I'm at a loss as to comprehend that mindset, because that's cold, callous, and cruel. And I really hate cruelty.
You know, with those situations, I'm out there going and checking on these people on the streets live and saying, hey, are you okay?
Yeah, play that. Go ahead.
All right.
You're right there.
Hey, buddy. You okay?
I go out and I check on people that are sleeping every day. Make sure they're alive, you know, because no one else is. Because no one else, like, someone's got to. They got to feel loved. They got to feel like they're a part of a community. And this is where society's failed everybody. Because, like Kevin said, we're just going to throw you out if you're not going to do what we do. Yeah. What if they don't want to do what you want them to? Let them do what they want.
So, yeah, absolutely.
St. Catharines, again, because that's just a horrible, horrible city. It's just terrible.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And, they have, I think, 3 tent cities basically there now. And these have just been increasing over the years. They always scream for more funding, but the homeless problem doesn't get better. It gets worse. And why? Because that funding does not go to what it's for. This is why they want homeless people, because homelessness is big bucks. And
$500 a head for a shelter.
Yeah, and the municipalities go to the province and scream, we need more funding, because they're padding their pockets while the homeless stay homeless, and there's no improvement in the situation.
I got a new thing coming up soon. I can't say much online, but you're going to see some surprises soon. I'm thinking about doing something in covert.
Yeah, and we're not going to talk about what that is. You'll have to just wait and see what the surprise is. But Derek is full of surprises, and the footage that he shoots is stuff that I get a chance to see on a regular basis, and it's shocking stuff. It really is. Yeah, Patricia, I'm going to have to agree with that. I am. So,
I know.
Go ahead.
Good on the roof.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ed likes to talk about working on the roof together. This is what, 2-3 years ago now?
Yeah.
Yes, everyone. So what happened is that Ed hired me and Derek and my son to essentially scrub. I'd say the better part. Yeah, it's a big flat roof, a 60,000 square foot roof, times two buildings. By the way,
no, it's bigger.
Is it bigger?
The one was 60, the other one was 75,000.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there you go. Even worse. Our job was to stand on the roof and scrape bird feces off.
Well, you loved it when I sprayed it in your face.
Off the roof.
Squeegees.
Yes, there you go. We didn't use our hands. And then Ed got upset with me because I'm thinking I'm up there and I'm getting this ridiculous farmer's tan. Like, look at me now. I still got the farmer's tan, right? I've got the dark arm and the light bicep. So I said, forget this. We're on this big roof. It's got a white coating on it, so the sun's reflecting back. I just got down to my hat, my sandals, and my underwear, and I washed there you go. Ed's shaking his head. But I got a great tan. Everyone was asking me if I'd been to the Caribbean. Nope. I was on a roof scrubbing bird crap.
On Jane and Finch.
In your underwear. I can't believe it.
So there we go. But hey, it was a job. It was a job, and I have absolutely no qualm whatsoever about working hard, scraping feces. I mean, the money was okay. Yeah, the boss was a little bit of a dick, but
Yeah, what's new?
There you are.
Oh man,
I suppose you guys. Yeah,
Ed hired a white slave. Anyway, guys, we're down to our last 4 minutes here. We are coming back next Tuesday and every Tuesday for the balance of the year. We're going to go out of our way to bring the show back 5 days per week. Derek, I'd like you to put the link out if you could, please. We have this new software package that we're utilizing. And what it's going to do, everybody, is we're going to be able to give you a link. You're going to be able to take or click on that link and then activate your YouTube channel or your Facebook page or your Twitter account or a few of the other social medias out there like DLive, Trovo, and Twitch. You'll be able to broadcast our show without having to share it or get into to complicated menus. What'll happen is if you grant us authority to do so, we can't log into your site. Like, we're not going to know your password or your user ID. It's in the chat room now, everybody, if you click on that link. But what'll happen is when we go live on our show, it will go straight to your social media. And what we're saying to you is if this happens, if you allow us to do this, if you guys want to sell advertising on your own page, keep 100% of it. We don't want a piece of it. We're more interested in the message getting out than we are doing split deals with you guys. So if you click on that link, you can allow us to broadcast on your Facebook, YouTube, Trovo, Twitch, and Twitter accounts.
So cut and paste that right now.
Yes.
Add that to your browser and give us approval.
We absolutely appreciate that. Okay, Ed's going to show us his new wife. She's gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, fantastic.
I knew that was your type.
There you go. Hey, Bubba. Woof, woof. That's Bubba the dog. Yeah, there we go. Ed's the happy guy.
Might need a little bit of neat there, Ed. I'm not sure.
Whenever China comes to Canada, you might have to eat the poor thing.
Oh, that's Korea. All right, gentlemen, closing remarks. We got to go.
Oh, I'll just keep loving one another and keep helping one another.
Not a bad one. Thanks, Derek. Good night to you. Eduardo, you're next.
See you Tuesday.
Yes, you will. That was very profound. Thank you for that. Good night, Ed. Stefanos, go ahead. You got the second last word here.
I'm laughing too much, but it's just great being back on and having such great guests like you did tonight. We can line up more of them and bring more meaningful content here, even better yet.
Absolutely. And for everyone who needs a quick reminder there, it was CL Bryant. He was our guest tonight. He is a reverend in the United States of America. He has contacts all over the place. Put out a great movie 10 years ago called Runaway Slave. You can catch it on Amazon Prime for $4.99. Absolutely worth it. Please thank him when you get a chance on his Twitter account. We do appreciate you being here tonight. If you want to see the show come back 5 days a week, simply donate today, freedomreport.ca@gmail.com, or go to KevinJJohnston.ca right there and throw a few bucks our way because we want to come back. The government doesn't want us back, but I'm so bored that, God, guys, I just have to do this again. Stefanos, thanks for being here, pal. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show for the balance of 2022. We will be doing this every Tuesday, and then we're going to come back next year if we can get your help. Visit us online anytime at KevinJJohnston.ca. Good night. I love you all.